Jesus says to take up your cross and follow him. Jesus' words in verse 25 make it a little clearer what he's talking about. He says, "Whoever loses their life for me." The Bible talks about all kinds of trials that the Christian goes through. In Acts 14, we hear, we must go through many hardships to enter the kingdom of God. The hardships aren't the price of admission, but on our way to heaven, we go through many trials. We heard about those trials in the reading from Romans today. Not only so, but we ourselves, who have the first fruits of the Spirit, groan inwardly as we wait eagerly for our adoption to sonship, the redemption of our bodies. But here Jesus is speaking about a very specific trial, the cross. Just as Jesus was going to suffer and die, so we also will face suffering for Jesus' sake in addition to the suffering that we experience because we live in a sinful world. So from one point of view, you are worse off by being a Christian than you were before. But if the cross Jesus is talking about is suffering for his sake, then there's only one alternative to the cross. The alternative is to deny Jesus. That might make you better off in the short term, but in the long term, it will be as Jesus says, whoever wants to save their life will lose it. And this denying oneself, this taking up of the cross and following Jesus, it doesn't just apply to individual Christians, it applies to Christian congregations, Christian churches too. How tempting it can be to just use Jesus' cross as a means to an end, to make the church what we want it to be, or make something other than Jesus the center of our church. How tempting it is to do whatever it might take to avoid having this church suffer any kind of pain or persecution or cross, even if it might mean denying Jesus in whole or in part. If atonement should follow the many other churches who have denied Jesus to save their existence, to keep people coming in the doors, to keep the lights on and the money flowing, then ultimately those who need to hear about Jesus won't, and they won't be saved. What if you lose your life because of Jesus? What if atonement closes its doors after faithfully preaching the cross? Jesus says, "Whoever loses their life for me will find it." What good will it be for someone to gain the whole world and yet forfeit their soul? Or what can anyone give in exchange for their soul? You could have everything you ever wanted, but if you don't have Jesus along with all those things, you will lose your soul. As a church, we could make ourselves much more appealing to the outside world, to the modern world. We could conform our teachings to what society says is best. We could proclaim King Jesus without Christ the crucified. We could be everything anyone ever wanted in a church. But if we didn't have Jesus and his cross, it would all be for nothing. Jesus' cross is what makes our crosses worth the suffering. His cross eases our hearts in all of our trials, not just that specific cross, but all of the things that we go through. Only his cross can be the bridge between God and us. Only his cross can guarantee that everything is okay between God and us because he has made it okay. Only through his cross do we see death die and life restored. Because Jesus has gone to the cross for us, we will do whatever it takes to follow him to life. May he always give us the strength to do so as individuals and as a church.